we suddenly are able to never say, I don't know again. That is such a profound statement. There is no reason to ever say, I don't know again.
Welcome to the Imagine AI podcast with your host, Chris Madden. Today, I've got a very special guest, a speaker from our Imagine AI live conference in Las Vegas, Eric Vaughan, CEO of IgniteTech and GFI Software. He's a visionary leader at the forefront of the AI revolution. With over 30 years of experience in the technology industry, Vaughan has founded and led 3 software companies, demonstrating a deep understanding of the transformative power of technology. I can't wait to get into this conversation with you, Eric. How are you doing?
Chris, I'm great. And thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here on your podcast. Love that we're talking about this everywhere we possibly can.
Yep. AI is everywhere. It's been everywhere for about a year now, or we're a year into the hype cycle, quotation marks, but I don't think this one's going away. So, Eric, I'd like to just start a little bit about your background. If you could kind of explain to the listeners where you're coming from.
Sure, happy to do that. Yeah, in that opening, you described me as a visionary, and visionary sounds like a lofty word, but actually, I have had a vision, and the vision won't go away. And the vision is, for the first time in my career, that, as you said, spans over 30 years. I was the founder and CEO of 3 different software companies, always in the enterprise software business. And actually, my companies have always been fascinated with the concept of interfaces and user interfaces to technology. I'm a software developer. That's where I started in the industry. I started my first software company because I was a software developer and I bought a small software company, not the other way around. So I didn't come into the business and then try to invent the technology. It was the other way around. And one of the key focuses has been on interfaces, because at the end of the day, the technology that we have created, we, the tech industry, over the last, say 40 years, has been notoriously terrible at trying to make it open and available to the common person. When I say common person, I mean not techies. And, you can point to key moments in our history where that changed. And everybody has to point to Steve Jobs and Apple. This was a wisdom that he understood, that it wasn't enough to get the tech industry interested in a smartphone. Because remember, we had those BlackBerries and Trios and Palms and all of that. But he then invented something that everyone wanted to use. And so that's the key. We do have technology creations for the betterment of something, but won't it be good if people will use it? And so this visionary thing, this vision, is some things that we've always wanted to be able to do are suddenly here for us. And I think that's really important and key. So, spanning those 30 years, for the last almost 8 years, I've been running a couple of different software companies. One's called IgniteTech, which is an enterprise software company, and another one is called GFI Software, which is an IT solutions company for small and medium businesses. So I actually have the responsibility for a wide swath of people out there, and it doesn't make any difference. The benefits and the opportunities here are really important. I do want to talk about something, though, Chris, because I listened to your podcast with Antonis Kochilas, the CEO of Ogilvy, and I thought, here was the perfect guy I wanted to have this conversation with, because you said at the start of our podcast, this AI that has been around for about a year now. Well, see, I think we have a branding problem, and I'd love to get Antonis's point of view on this. AI has been around for 15 years. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, or AI or ML, for at least 10 years has been solidly in front of people. IBM taking out ads for Watson on Super Bowl Sunday, right? And most people couldn't have been less interested in that. It only appealed to business people, right? And so we've said AI, 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 AI. There have been movies about it for years and years. What happened a year ago is a new brand. It's called GenAI. It's generative AI. This is what moved the needle. And to quote the CEO of NVIDIA, almost exactly a year ago, I thought he made the perfect comment when he was announcing their latest round of GPUs that they were bringing out to drive this new revolution. He said, this is the iPhone moment for AI. I thought that's exactly right. This is when this transition happened completely. And so Gen AI is what's changed everything for the last year. And, to anyone listening who doesn't really appreciate that difference, AI ML was all based on large models that took days, weeks, and months to constantly train new data and to train the technology in order to be able to run analysis to get insights out of data. And then if you wanted to change it, there was another round of that. It was really expensive. With Gen AI, it's now happening instantly, and it's happening by natural language. And this natural language interface, back to my 30 plus years of focusing on interfaces and trying to bridge the gap to technology, is why I'm so excited, because everyone gets that. Everyone, 7-year-olds, 80-year-olds, tech, non-tech, doesn't matter where they are in the world. Hey, I can just ask a question and it will answer me. And big improvements from Siri or Alexa as they state now. Iteratively, I can refine my questions as I go on, and I might even make mistakes or use acronyms. And this thing's intelligent enough, if you will, to sort that out. Now I can really do things. So yeah, big, long answer. That's the background. But this vision is, oh my, we have got to make this, we have to make this a very important part of everybody's life, and we need to do it now before they miss. So
yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you checked out the episode with Antonis. My favorite part of that was just hearing how AI is already being used in these wide scale marketing campaigns. Celebrity marketing, a very old thing, but now with generative AI, and deep fakes, you can have that, your celebrity giving personalized ad reads to the viewer, that the AI knows who you are, the algorithm knows who you are, so they can personalize it to like who you are and where you are, and like the celebrity can appear to be speaking in that sense. Also, yeah, you're totally right about the AI's been around a lot longer than just a year. I had Michael Moe on, a legendary edtech investor, and he was saying how machine learning has been around since like 1975, I believe. Like that's when it was like first invented. So, it's been around for a while, and yeah, AI has been a thing of movies, and it has been in, since it beat chess players and the Go, it's been around, it's been in the news for, the last 10, 20 years, but it really is this Gen AI breakout moment that everyone's actually trying it out in a simple user face, and can be using common natural language. So it's definitely feels like a shifting point.
you're right. It has been around for that, for a very long time, but again, only appealing to a small cross section of people. Not even if, as a software company, I can tell you that we've had a number of conversations pre-Gen AI with our customers about their interest in, what's the common use case? Our software product holds a lot of your data, Mr. Customer. Wouldn't it be fantastic if we could do pattern analysis and anomaly detection, anomaly analysis to draw insights? One example, one of our customers is one of the largest cement manufacturers, actual creation of cement in the world. They've got plants all over the world. And it turns out that there's a large body of data that analyzes the actual process of creating cement, literally firing the raw materials in the kiln and determining the best yield for the best quality of cement. And so we piloted a project a few years ago where we took this vast amount of data and we were able to calculate differences in kiln temperature that would yield better product, less waste. It was worth millions to them. But that project took a year and phenomenally expensive resources on the Google Cloud platform at the time, because those were the kind of the best places to run the models. And it ended up yielding some good results for the customer, but the project was unsustainable because of the cost, right? And so here's this other thing, right? We're now at $20 a month for the pro version of Gen AI, and people are doing real things to transform their businesses or new ideas and, in profound ways. But Chris, if you think about it, and I've said this a few times, and I've never heard anyone actually come up with another number. I think there have been, certainly in my career over the last 30 plus years, there have been 4 tectonic global technologies that literally changed everything across the world. Number 1 was the internet. Number 2 was the web browser. This is where Andreessen came from, of course, in CSA with Mosaic. We had the internet. We were all connected, lots of data, but we needed a way to look at it. That was number 2. Number 3 was the actual personal computer, right? That now proliferated mostly because of IBM entering the game. And then number 4 was the iPhone, because the iPhone changed the whole game for putting a computer in your pocket and spawned the app economy and all of that. So that's 4. This is number 5. And that was 15 years ago for the iPhone. So it's been 15 years since we've had this kind of dramatic technological, on a global scale, event happening. And that's the vision. The vision is we can finally do things that we've always wanted to do, that we never had the time for or even the know-how. And that potential should be keeping people up at night in a good way. Just like maybe they're wasting time while sleeping.
When did this realization for you? When did you realize that AI was going to be this revolutionary moment that was going to change things for you and for your business and for society?
It's an interesting concept of why. It certainly started at the end of 2022 with the initial release of ChatGPT, and I'm a tech guy. I'm a technologist, always have been. Stay abreast of everything that's going on. I'm always interested. I'm always the first guy to beta something or try something because I just want to see, what difference it might make. And I remember that when it came out initially, and I was interested and didn't immediately understand that this was going to fundamentally change everything. I'll tell you what the difference was. It was when other people in my friends and family circle started saying, have you heard about this thing called ChatGPT? And I'm like, you're in the recruiting industry. That's interesting. You're a lawyer. That's interesting. And that's when, it was grabbing their attention. And I realized it was absolutely this accessibility. Let's just use that word. It's accessible. We have now made this phenomenal power accessible to people in the simplest of interfaces, their own voice. So it was really the end of 2022. And in early 2023, I was speaking at an industry conference down in Florida, and it was literally the day, I think, that the NVIDIA CEO made that comment about this being the iPhone moment. We started talking about it internally at the start of 2023 within IgniteTech and GFI Software. And then about the start of the second quarter, we realized, okay, everybody's dabbled, everybody's experimented. We need to take this to another level.
I'm right there with you at the end of 2022 when, ChatGPT version 3 was released, and, Sam Altman really started making huge waves across the whole globe and across all these different sections of demography. So can you, before we get into how you...
But to that point, Chris, though, that was just another guy in the Bay Area with a Y Combinator background, right? I mean, it was the same story everyone's heard over and over and over again for everything, right? So there was nothing to alert you that this should have been any different. It sounded like the same thing over and over again. So for me, it was when, again, other people outside the tech industry took note. I realized that there was a hook. Yeah, I mean, that was it. I mean, it's when other people start asking me, the people that aren't tech people, not my my team, not my colleagues or my contemporaries, but friends and family. When they start asking questions, that was a tweak. That, wait a minute, this isn't just another Bay Area guy who did something. This was, this was really the tip, I think. So,
can you give me and our listeners an overview of the companies that you run today, as far as size of employees and
IgniteTech is an enterprise software company with over 50 products. I always call it an enterprise software company to distinguish it from small and medium business. These are very large customers, typically multinational global customers, very names that people would know, large government organizations, large Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 type of companies. And our software runs across, it's a horizontal software company. So we don't specialize in vertical solutions for finance or insurance or manufacturing. We have all of those. And we have a lot of products that are used by companies across industries. And GFI Software is a company that is 100% channel based. So as opposed to IgniteTech, where we go straight to the customers, we offer our IT solutions for small and medium businesses through a network of distributors and resellers throughout the world. Both companies are 100% remote. We have hundreds of employees all across the globe. We've been 100% remote for over 10 years. So this is not a byproduct of the pandemic. We were way ahead of the game for a lot of really good reasons. The pandemic just turned out to be one of them, which we didn't know, of course, right? I mean, this gives us the opportunity to hire the best and brightest wherever they are without regard to relocation or where they're working. It gives freedom for people. We have people that take jobs with us because they love that freedom and they end up moving, sometimes to a different country. My chief of staff, I hired her in the UK. She currently lives in the Dominican Republic because that all works. So we're not just remote. I always say we're remote global enabled. We're all cloud based. We know how to collaborate. We spend a lot of time on videos. The 2D meetings, it's always a pleasure when we actually get to meet in 3D. And we're privately held, so we don't disclose revenues, but we have always been profitable and always remarkably profitable. And our growth has been fueled by mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. And that's been part of my background as well. As the founder and CEO of 3 software companies, I sold my last one to another company that I then joined and helped that CEO through 25 different acquisitions over the course of 5 years. And then with IgniteTech and GFI Software, we've done about another 20 acquisitions over the last several years. That's our growth. We grow through M&A, which is it's a remarkable way to grow a software company for a lot of reasons, financial and otherwise. But technologically, it's fascinating because you suddenly are in a market you never were before with technology you didn't even know existed, with competitors and customers that you've never had before. So it's a fascinating way to drive a software business.
Fascinating. I've got like 10 questions just on your whole business model. The fully remote is great, and doing it before it was popular and made mandatory by COVID.
Yeah, it was great because we were able to help a lot of customers through that because we knew how to build the culture, the tools to use, the problems that they had, right? Like data was suddenly locked up in a office building that they had no access to. And I mean, it was fascinating. We spent a lot of time helping customers through that in a lot of different ways, software and otherwise.
What are the top ways your company and your business have changed since this 2022 Gen AI revolution?
Well, again, let me go back to the start of 2023, where now we brought it to the company and we had our teams evaluating and, signing up and using different things and trying to flex the muscles a little bit and see what was there and really understand the power. And it was about the second quarter of last year where we decided we needed to take a more formal approach. So I sponsored a month-long project. Some people, talk about doing hackathons over weekends and things like that. We spent literally 30 days, had an all hands with everybody in both companies and said, one of the very first slides in that all hands deck was a picture of a gift. And I said, here's something you don't hear from your companies very often. We're giving you all a gift. And it really is a gift, no strings attached. The gift is we are going to sponsor, we are going to fund, we are going to teach, we are going to share something that should change everyone's life, both professionally and personally. Now, we're doing it because we want you to bring that back to us in terms of productivity gains and technological advances, of course. But for whatever reason, if we separate and you move on, you're going to be able to take that gift with you. And so we did that in an all hands meeting. I said, this couldn't be more sincere. Everybody should be on ChatGPT Plus. It's totally reimbursable by the company. You've got carte blanche up to an amount of money, each of you, to spend on other tools because we want you to really branch out there. And for that month, you're going to be required to do at least 2 things. Number one is you need to find tips and share them with the company. We had this automated way of doing it that shared it on a chat channel. And for every tip that you find, you're going to get a fixed number of points. And there's no validation of the tips. It just needs to be something that you found that here's a way of doing things, or here's an Excel plugin or a Google Sheet plugin that invokes GPT, or, just literally tips, right? And number two is everybody's going to be assigned to some teams, and you're going to work on what we call business value projects, which are what projects can you define that would have measurable business value in terms of dollars? Could be increased revenue, could be reduced costs for the company. And there's going to be a point system associated with that. And we're going to run that for this full month. And we told everybody, we literally put a picture up of a vertical bar chart with a green, a yellow, and a red. And I said, here's what we're doing, folks. We are not trying to see how good you are at this. Does anybody have any skill at this? That's not what we're trying to do. We're only trying to measure engagement. Are you engaged? Because we saw early, I certainly saw early, that this was going to be a cultural problem. And we've seen cultural problems throughout our life, right? I mean, there was resistance over the calculator when it first came out, right? I mean, and nobody's going to be able to do math anymore. And it's ridiculous that this is going to be a crutch. So I knew we were going to have cultural problems. And quite frankly, as the CEO, I needed to sort that out now, because I didn't want any doubting Charlies running around the company saying, yeah, that's really never going to work, because I knew it's going to work. There was no question in my mind. I don't know when, how, and all which ways we're going to make it happen, but I understand how important this is. I understood that, and so did my team, my leadership team, certainly. So trying to measure engagement. We're all in a boat. We got to be in the same boat. We all have to be rowing together. We all have to all use both oars at the same time, and we've got to do it together. And if not, I understand you're going to have to find another boat. And so this chart had a green, a yellow, and a red. And he said at the end of the month, we're going to use some very fair but steady across the team assessment of points. And green means you're exceptional. You're exceptional, you're going to get a $2,500 bonus, and we're going to give out 5 of those. So the top 5 point winners in that got $2,500 bonuses. The yellow, you didn't get the $2,500 bonus, but you showed engagement. If you're in the red, we're going to call that the basement, and all of the people in the basement will be exiting the company. And it was just very clear. We were very upfront, made it very clear. And I come back to the tips. And I'll tell you, at the end, we used ChatGPT, as you would expect, to do all kinds of slicing and dicing and analysis, and even insights. Like, why do you think this team didn't do as well as this team? What kind of insights could you draw? It was fascinating to have these conversations. And all you had to do was the tips. If you just did the tips, you were in the yellow. The only people that were in the red, that was 20 a week for 4 weeks. That's 80 tips. We had people in the red that did 6 or 2 or 4. And that's what I wanted to find. Okay. Those people end up poisoning a culture if they're, it sounds like a draconian term, but subverting the mission of the company. Everybody's got to believe. Everybody has to believe. And I want to sort that out. And so we did that in the first month, that we literally exited. Not a lot of people, less than 20, but it's still enough people that I think everybody understood our resolve in this, and that wasn't going to change. And that was just the start, Chris. So I'll pause here, see if you have any questions about that.
Yeah. First of all, I find it really inspiring from a leader perspective to take charge and put out the vision and the mission. And it is so much about the culture in a company and getting everybody on board. And a fascinating game you put out there for all the employees, and presenting it in a fair, transparent way. And really, just asking for engagement, asking for, hey, engage with all these AI, research these AI tools, and play around and share with the rest of the team. Curious if you saw certain parts of your organization not engage as well as other departments.
Yeah, it's and that's what I was alluding to with the conversations. How could we not grade this with ChatGPT or some tool like ChatGPT, some LLM? How could we not? For not just for the computations, but for the insights. And one of the insights was grouping by teams and functional teams. So marketing, sales, finance, development, support, the kind of departments you find in a software company. That was the first thing. And yes, we saw that the sales and the marketing teams excelled. They blew everybody else away in the company. And contrary to what I thought, the technical teams were the most resistant. And this was, I think I've thought through it since then and talked to other people who are like, yeah, I found the same thing. And it's kind of what I expected, but I didn't expect it because I'm a tech guy and I was super excited about this new capability to do things that I've never been able to do. Our technical teams, our support teams, our engineering teams were more resistant to it. And for example, they were more resistant to just learning, literally reading, literally getting on X or LinkedIn or Substack or Medium and reading blogs about what's happening out there. We asked them, who else do you follow? Like, no one. And so, we had that, that revelation that, tech people, and we're going to find this across industries. This is one of the things we're going to talk about at your Imagine AI conference, that everyone's going to experience this in their organization. You're going to find people that believe they're fearful of being replaced. They doubt that the AI can do everything that they want. And it can't, to be clear. No one ever said it could, right? But if it does 60% of something you used to do, that's of enormous benefit. And I think this is where the marketing and the sales teams saw that. This fixed for them what is commonly known in the writing industry as the blank page problem. Now, I've done a fair amount of writing in my life, and I know the blank page problem. It's hell. It's a terror. I've sat down and put my fingers on the keyboard. I'm like staring. I'm like, yeah, come back tomorrow. I know this problem. So how wonderful to be free of that for the very first time in any of our lives that we've done any kind of creative writing. So it's amazing.
Generative AI really solves that blank page problem as a creator, anybody that's doing things in this world, and especially online, the hardest thing is if you don't have an idea or you have an idea but you don't know how to execute or something, or you just need somebody to talk with about it and kind of figure out a good approach or a way to angle it, and all of those questions you can ask ChatGPT. So it really just takes the spark of an idea, and then you talk it out with ChatGPT or another GenAI product, and you just get tons of inspiration, and you can just start going again. So it certainly solves the blank page problem.
It did. It solved the bit. And so I think marketing and sales saw that. I think the tech people, said things like, well, it's never going to be able to code. I'm like, well, why wouldn't it be able to code? Isn't coding just like a pattern? Isn't it a language and a pattern? I'm pretty sure is it going to be like the best coder? Is it going to be better than you? Never said that. But what if it could just write the base routines for you and you never had to do those again? And it left the harder parts for you, or the logic that maybe you've not yet defined that delivers the business function of the product, right? So, well, it's never going to be able to solve customer support problems. Well, why not? Most of those are patterns. Again, it's all about patterns over and over again. It's patterns. Customers typically report problems in buckets that can be categorized, and the AI can certainly be trained easily now on what it's seen before and offer that up in a meaningful way, and not just a to B, but an A in the middle between A and B if there's an edge case, because it can infer and take the next step in the reasoning with that. And so we've done that. We've got a support team now that over 50% of all of our level 1 tickets, typical support is divided into L1, L2, and usually engineering. 50% of all of our L1 tickets are now solved by a chatbot, and customer satisfaction is much higher. So it's not a bad experience with the chatbot. In fact, quite frankly, they just want to get the answer, right? And now we're certainly working to bring 50 up to 80 is the next goal. And then we're on to L2, level 2 problems that are more complex and need more data in order to solve that. But we think by the end of the year, we'll have a high percentage of L2. And so, we're going to be able to handle a lot more volume, deliver much better customer satisfaction to our customers than ever before.
20% is a fair a fair percentage of like jobs that could be disrupted, displaced by AI. And what do you?
Well, to be clear, they weren't displaced. We're replacing most of those with AI first people. So we changed our recruiting completely. So now that was the first project. Next thing was another all hands. And I said, hey, everybody, I want to talk about being an AI first organization. And I know that sounds like some lofty phrase, AI first. Hey, we're AI first. What does that mean? Well, guess what? I went and had a long conversation with the LLMs about the characteristics of AI first versus not AI first. And I asked it to contrast behaviors of AI first in a typical software company between non-AI first in a typical software company. And if you want to know, just look at this chart. This is who you should be, right? And the very first thing I did is I went around and asked several people. I asked the people on the all hands, if you're talking to your neighbor and they ask you what you do, what do you say you do for IgniteTech? Oh, I'm a marketing manager for IgniteTech. I'm a VP of customer support for GFI Software. I'm a finance manager for IgniteTech. I said, okay, let me ask a couple more people. And finally, somebody said, I'm an AI first software developer who's looking to bring AI into every phase of my job. And I said, now that, folks, is the very first step that I need all of us to think about, that's who we are. And that's how you would respond to that question. And then hopefully they're like, well, what does that mean? AI first. Well, now you know, and you've bought into that, right?
So what does that AI first mean? You said that you've got this cool chart of kind of laying out what it means. What does it mean?
Well, we went down job for job, and it's starting. And here's the first thing: you start every single day of your job, no matter what it is, CEO or finance manager, and you need to do something. You sit down at your desk and you're ready to do something. Instead of just doing it, you say, how could I bring GenAI into this work unit, this unit of work that I'm about to do, to augment it, right? It was Antonis's phrase, AI wasn't artificial intelligence, it was augmented inspiration. And I love that. It was totally great. And I very much believe in this augmentation model, which Ethan Mollick, this Wharton professor out at Penn, who has really been a strong voice and leading advocate for GenAI and is bringing it through education and through the industry. He and some of his colleagues wrote a paper that talked about a centaur model, the mythical part horse, part human, a centaur. And I think that's a great image, right? The human's still going to do a part of a lot of units of work, but you absolutely can get the AI to do at least a strong percentage and a growing percentage. And so being AI first says, I'm about to write an email. Is there a better way to write that email? I'm about to write a press release. Is there a better way to write that press release? I'm about to go look for a bug in my code. Is there a better way? So it's putting the mind to say, what tools do I have that I can use? Now, so let me rewind from that, Chris. You can only do that if you've spent time learning about the tools and about the technologies that are available, not just ChatGPT. ChatGPT wins branding, and it's working better right now than anybody, right? The model is working better than anybody. We keep seeing that. Lots of talk of Gemini and all coming, but it's still GPT-4 in the lead. And so the next round of transforming us to an AI first company was at the start of this year in 2024, we now sponsor what are referred to as AI Mondays. So today is Monday, and I'm meeting with you. And the only reason I'm meeting with you is because this is an AI related activity, because throughout every single Monday, literally every single Monday, every single person in IgniteTech and GFI Software is forbidden from having a meeting with anyone, a customer, a vendor, each other, unless it is for the furtherance of AI at the company. Every single Monday. So that means if you think about it, we are spending 20% of our total payroll every single week. That's back to the gift, to fund the education of our people, to learn more about different models, learn about Claude, learn about Anthropic and what they're offering, learn about Perplexity as an alternative search engine, learn about Gemini and compare and contrast. Learn about how to use APIs on the back end to drive into OpenAPI to automate. Learn how to write GPTs, right? Take a course that we are paying for up to $1,000. Everybody had $1,000 to spend on any of these things, including courseware, right? Because you gotta have the tools on your belt before you can be an AI first person and start your day and say, how could I do that differently, right? So we're developing the education and the tools so everybody thinks differently, and we're completing our first month today. I have no other meetings on my calendar except you. You are the only one, because this was related to the furtherance of AI and the furtherance of AI at our company.
Man, Eric, I want to come work at your company. That sounds pretty cool.
Well, I love that you want to come work at our company, and we want AI first people to come work at our company, and we're putting that word out. If you go look at our jobs that are available on crossover.com, which is our recruiting platform, you'll see a lot of AI first roles. In fact, at the end of last year, I hired our first VP of GenAI. So he doesn't just work Mondays on GenAI, he works all 40 hours a week on furthering the education of the entire team. So he helps build the AI Monday curriculum, give people projects to work on and the like.
So Eric, you talked a lot about how you're using AI to change your company culture and the insides of your business. How are you using AI to improve the customer experience?
Well, I think it's a really important concept, because of course we are changing it, and we urge all organizations to change their organization internally to take advantage of GenAI to do things they never could before and get time back in their schedule that they never had before. But as a software company, we intend to lead. And over the last year, we've completely halted the development of new features that don't align to this AI first vision, right? Software developers for decades have built what they call roadmaps, and it's certainly with feedback from customers, which we value very highly and get that kind of input. But in many cases, our customers don't yet know what they want. And that's where vision comes in. And I think this idea of vision is really personified in a story that's very well known in business circles of a player for the National Hockey League, regarded by many to be the greatest of all time, a guy named Wayne Gretzky. He was asked at one point, how is it that you make these incredible passes that you do? And his answer was, I pass the puck to where the player is going to be, not to where they are. And that, Chris, is vision, right? We have to take our customers on a journey and deliver things to them before they know they need them. When Apple introduced the iPhone in 2007, there were no customers rallying around Apple headquarters saying, you got to give us a computer in our pocket that combines a camera and a phone and an iPod all in one device. They knew it. He knew it. And now if you fast forward, from that announcement, it's the one thing no one would ever leave their house without. If they had to grab one thing, it'd be their phone over their wallet, over anything else, right? Because it's become that important. So that's it. And so we are hard at work talking to our customers, getting their ideas, because, I'd split them in two camps. Half of them are super excited and saying, we've got some ideas, and others are not important. We just want base features in our software. Well, we can do both. Base features of the software that are AI enabled. And we believe that vision is going to deliver on that to all of our customers. And I think that's very important. And it's got to come from the top. I mean, the CEO's got to be on the road, which I will be all of 2024, sitting with customers, our key customers all around the globe, to get them pumped up and excited about this revolution and how we're going to personify it in the software that they pay us for. It's just couldn't be more important. And I think any software company that hasn't seen this or hasn't heard this clarion call is way behind and ought to fear that they're falling behind, because competitors are coming for them.
What is the vision for where your customers are going to be? Certainly
varies by product, right? It depends on the use case of the product. And as I mentioned, we have a wide range of products. We have products that provide control system automation for large mining and manufacturing organizations. And that uses a proprietary language to run these control system computers. NASA is a key customer, for example. And one of the things that would really advance their capabilities is code augmentation, right? The ability to create more code, more test cases, more models with the code much quicker. In other cases, there are these co-pilots which provide a deep look and insights into the data that's there. One thing that's very common about our software, and in fact, a lot of enterprise software, is we end up creating this vast wealth of knowledge in a data repository with our software, but we're not helping clients or customers mine that information for cross correlations, from anomalies, right, in different ways. So take for example a firewall. Now, a firewall keeps track of intrusions that are well known and defined in firewalls trying to attack ports or the like. But if you had another software product that tracked user authentication errors on a database, for example, and it was completely separate, those two never got together. With the power of AI, we can bring all that data together and have it detect patterns that correlate and highlight risks and problems much sooner than anybody could, right? Computers are supposed to do work for us. This is the way we get the computers to do much, much more work for us much quicker and in a much more intelligent approach.
That's really cool. So you mentioned like all this education and all these tools you're researching in the team. What are the top tools that you have found to be useful and beneficial for your organization?
Yeah, I would answer that question by first of all saying besides ChatGPT, because ChatGPT has been just remarkable and keeps growing and evolving. I had a conversation on X last week with somebody that said, these LLMs are all going to just become a commodity, and the sooner the better. I said, I just wholeheartedly disagree, and I hope you're completely wrong, because commodities mean there's no real differentiation, and I want people to leapfrog each other. I hope Gemini comes out and leapfrogs OpenAI, because OpenAI will have to catch up then, right? And OpenAI's got the Microsoft backing, right? So I would say besides OpenAI, certainly Perplexity is one that we've encouraged everybody to use. And in fact, challenged anyone to say, why are you using Google search ever? Like quite literally, because Perplexity will search instantly, and it's an iterative kind of response that you can ask follow-up questions and get more, and it's extremely quick. And Perplexity is, I'm sure you're aware, is taking on funding from Bezos and several other high-profile investors, and it's a skyrocketing tool that's out there. We found Claude, Anthropic's Claude, that model presents some benefits. We did some side-by-side tests on copywriting, for example, and found that Claude had some advantages in terms of detail and examples. Like, it was much better at citing analogies and examples, which is, as a writer, analogies are always a great way to do those kinds of things. Certainly on the back end, we found Cursor to be a great tool for our dev teams. People are really excited about that. And even Llama, some playing with Meta's Llama in different applications has been able to bring it together. So it's a little bit like a symphony, and not all the instruments are playing the same tune. Some of them shouldn't, right? There's like a brass section, and there's like a percussion section. And right now they're kind of playing different tunes, and that's okay because different tools and different purposes. But we think what that's going to do is bring it all together in a symphony that means we are able to do more for our customers than ever before. And by the way, we're only talking about the internal transformation. For our customers, we announced an AI-first roadmap for literally every one of our products. And we settled on the common brand name of Copilot for ours as well. We have literally announced and articulated a vision of Copilots for every single one of our products in our portfolio without exception. Some of them are simple Q&A and summarization tools, which certainly have value. Some of them are code generation tools. Some of them are pulling insights out of the data that's there automatically. And so this is also transforming our vision for our customers. And this, any customer that ever gets to watch this podcast, that's what I want them to know. We're not only transforming our operation to make it more efficient, we're transforming the software that they come to expect, right? And we're seeing lots of examples of that already. like Microsoft's release of Copilot just a short while ago in the Office suite, and people's delight of creating a slide deck in PowerPoint with a few bullets. Really quite amazing. We're doing the same.
You mentioned all those tools. One of the limitations I find with ChatGPT is that it doesn't remember who I am every time I log in. Like I want my AI to like start keeping track of everything and just like know my personality, know my who I've talked with, what I know, what I don't know, so it can help me more and I can be more efficient. And I wonder if you've come across any tools or anything that is doing that, is remembering who you are, learning from you, and like storing that data, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are certainly a couple ways. So it's been fascinating because, I think about a year ago, before we had GPT-4, we only had 3.5. We didn't have live web browsing. We didn't have advanced data analysis, meaning you could upload files yet. And then that kept creeping out. And that's what I meant by, God, I hope it doesn't become a commodity. I just want these guys to just keep giving us stuff and letting us learn. And it's come so far. But yeah, this is a common issue where, people get frustrated. I talking to somebody who said, well, I can't use it for writing because it doesn't sound like me. And I'm like, well, why should it sound like you? Does it know you? How does it know you? What did you teach it? And what did you give it? Or did you say, write an article about copywriting using AI, use my voice? I mean, if it wasn't so polite, which sometimes I think ChatGPT is a little bit too polite, it'd be like, and who are you? And why should I know you? So, there's a lot of talk right now about prompting skills, prompt engineering. I agree with a lot of people that we should stop saying prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is going to scare people. I'm not an engineer. I'll never be able to do it. Just, prompting best practices, good prompting, approaches, frameworks and rules and guidelines. Here's a rule. Don't sit down and write one sentence with 6 words and expect to get a great result. It's not going to happen. So one thing you can do, Chris, to answer your question is write a prompt that always tells it who Chris is, keep it in a file, and paste it every time you start, and it will know who you are again. Or use the system prompt field in GPTs, for example, or in the API part of OpenAPI. System prompt is exactly that. It's like, you will always know these things. Because what it doesn't do is keep a memory at all times. And that people need to understand that. Like they leave a chat and they go back. They leave a chat and they go back. They're like, well, it still remembers everything. Yeah, not necessarily. That's not the way it works. Think about the compute power to do that. But you can remind it super quick. You can find a way. So you should write I am Chris Madden, and this is what this means, and this is what I do, and this is what I write. This is my voice. Look at these documents of transcripts of my podcast, and you know how I ask questions. Now, give me 10 questions for my upcoming guests that sound like me based on the subject matter, right? That kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah, that's very good actionable advice, and just, doing the brunt work one time and saving that in a Word doc or wherever, and then
that enforces good behavior though too, because people keep writing prompts in that, and this sounds like a little thing. I think it's a big thing. People keep writing prompts in that little window. And that little window creates laziness. It creates lack of structure because it's too easy to run everything together. Put it in a document. Do it the way you do it, where you create blank lines and section headings like persona, task, step-by-steps, output format, right? There's all these frameworks out there. There's CoStar, there's RICE, there's RTF, there's chain of density. There are all these different formats that are out there. All of those are good tools, right? But it's those. I interviewed somebody in a marketing position, and she said, yeah, it's just changed my copywriting. And she said, like, I handle this for multiple clients, and it always remembers their voice. And I said, well, how did you do that? And he said, well, she said, I just leave the chat window open. And it's just like, you go back like 2 weeks later, you just ask another question, and that's not the way it works. Those tokens roll out the top of its head. We've all seen that, where it's like, didn't I already tell you that? Why am I telling you that again? Well, you didn't tell it more recently, and you didn't tell it was super important and should always remember that, right? There's a lot of techniques. So let's get out of this prompt engineering idea, but everybody should be learning the tools. And one of the tools as it is right now is good prompting. So yeah, I think that's important.
Very, very useful. Thank you for that. The second and final like personal advice question I have is just organization. Like, organization is not a strong point of mine, and I wonder if how generative AI, any tools that you've come by that can help in organizing one's life more.
Yeah. Why don't you go have that conversation with Chat GPT or Perplexity or Claude and say exactly that? And so you start, the first thing to always start with is a persona. You are the most organized assistant anyone could ever have. You never forget things. You keep everything on lists. You've got reminders set up. You never miss a thing. Your task is to help me, who isn't that person, get much better. Step by step. Number one, right? Go ask it and have that conversation, honestly. Because there was somebody else, and I've forgotten his name, and I wish I didn't because the quote was so meaningful. It was another interview I read. He said, we suddenly are able to never say, I don't know again. That is such a profound statement. There is no reason to ever say, I don't know again. Now, some people would say, well, Google search gave us that. And I'm like, the way I see Google search is it's a haystack. And the way I see Perplexity or other, chat interfaces is it's a needle. And when I get to work every day, I don't go, can't wait to bring up a whole bunch of haystacks and look for exactly what it is I want. Instead, I can ask a question and get it just exactly the way I want it. And I've done this. I've been on calls. We were doing an initial call with a company for a potential acquisition. And they were in a market, I mentioned this, that I wasn't very familiar with. And they used a phrase that I'd never heard of, an acronym, like, I don't know what this is. And so rather than ask them and interrupt the conversation, I had ChatGPT and I said, what is, so it was about, I knew about CX, which is customer experience, and I knew about EX, which is employee experience, and we're in that market. But they said XM. I'm like, XM? What is XM? And so, hey, in the context of CX and EX, what is XM? XM means experience management. Experience management is bringing all that together into one experience platform. So I'm educating myself on the fly while I'm talking to the CEO of this other company who's potentially an acquisition target of ours. So isn't that exciting? We have the ability to never say, we have the lack of ability to ever say, I don't know anymore, unless you just don't want to go find out, because you can be taught in 2 seconds.
It's super exciting, and it's a wave that's lifting all boats as long as you have access to the technology and a willingness to engage with that technology. How do you think AI is going to change our society?
Well, I love that you use that phrase because I've been using it a lot lately. And I just posted it on X a week ago when somebody said something to the effect of, they published a study, which is another study that's disappointing at best and surprising at least, that in the early stages, this technology seems to be adopted more by higher paid individuals than lower paid individuals. And my response to that post was, that's got to change. It should be the great leveler. Rising tides lift all boats. This is what should happen here, right? So accessibility is important. No question it's important. I watch with dread about the fears that are permeating the industry, and we're seeing other parts of the world, the EU and the like, trying to crack down with regulations and the like. And I'm not saying that we don't need to be careful and we don't need to regulate, but this is the internet again. I mean, the internet brought us all kinds of ills, right? I mean, from social media bullying to, the ability to, it was famous years ago that you could find out how to make a bomb. What was that called? How to make a bomb in my mother's kitchen or something like that, right? I mean, the proliferation of information was everywhere. The answer was not to unplug the internet. And the answer was not to overly regulate it, but to put safeguards and guardrails in. We have to do the same thing. So I hope that regulation doesn't get in the way of accessibility, because if so, we're going to create a world of haves and have-nots. And the have-nots are not going to know what hit them. And they're going to be so behind, I don't know who's going to reach out and pull them up, right? And so I'm proselytizing in a way I never have in my entire life, in my entire career, because I want everyone to understand. As I said, I've seen the future. I'm come back and I'm like, you've got to get on board with this. I don't care if you're running an appliance repair company. I don't care if you're a lawyer at a law firm. I don't care if you're a doctor. I don't care if you're a software technologist. I don't care if you're, an admin. I don't care if you're a yoga instructor. All of these things will be a leveler and give you an advantage and a substantial disadvantage if you don't take advantage. But you said the last part, right? The willingness. It's the old horse and water. I mean, at IgniteTech and GFI, I got big troughs of water and I've smoothed the path to the water and I've given incentives, cash bonuses. If you get to the water, I'm still going to have some horses that won't drink. And, the best thing I can do is find that out and, cut ties. So I've got a group of people that are all pulling together to do the same thing. And I encourage companies and organizations everywhere to have the same attitude.
All right. Well, we're getting to the end of this great conversation. I wonder if there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you would like to touch on.
Well, very much looking forward to the Imagine AI conference. I love the idea of being out in front, brand new. The venue in Vegas to always encourage people to come. That always seems to work for people, but I think it's going to be very important. I love that it is structured in a way of an exchange of ideas across a number of different concepts and not trying to be this big expo, right? I'm not sure we're ready for that yet. We do really need to have conversation and presentations from people who have points of view. And I hope to bring something to that conference in a way that, I exalt people to hurry up and get back and start their own plan, proselytize, inspire others, make sure their management team, if they're not the managers, the executives directly, are on board, and get out and warn. And if they can't get them on board, go find a job that does, because that's going to be the difference. It really is. So I think it's fantastic that Imagine AI is existing. I'm really looking forward to the conference.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Yeah, we're super excited that you found the website and signed on right away and that we could get you on as a speaker. You're totally right that we're trying to make this something incredibly different from normal conferences. And it's this big tent. Everyone's welcome. It's an exchange of ideas. And it's going to be a lot of fun in the Fontainebleau Hotel. This place is super extravagant, luxurious,
and it's futuristic. How appropriate, right? It's brand new, just opened. I mean, it's perfect for this.
Brand new, futuristic. Yeah, we're totally looking forward to it. Thank you for being a speaker. Thank you for coming on the Imagine AI podcast.
Yeah, I really look forward to meeting you in person, Chris, and thanks so much for having me today.